Hey,
Morning.
Anna's here.
Hello.
Good morning and welcome to the Up to Date podcast. Two spelled TWO because we keep people up to date by role playing as though you and I were on a second date, which is how you should pursue your first date. per Hunter Messenger. It needs a little explanation, but it's one way to name a show.
I truly thought, wow, I went through a roller coaster right there. I want to tell you beat by beat what I was thinking. You said it, and I was like, oh no, does he realize this makes it sound like we're dating or we're dating the guests? And then I was like, maybe he doesn't realize? And then you went for it. And then I was like, oh, maybe it's because I constantly am trying to get you a wife and you're calling me out, which is super reasonable. I explained this podcast to somebody I'd never met yesterday at summer solstice. She was a little confused, which makes sense because it's both the case that there are guests and I don't interview them. I think your role was a little opaque to her, which makes sense. Anyway, I said that we bring on guests and I don't really interview them, but we sort of have banter. And she said, flirty or intellectual?
Good question.
The only section that matters. We'll ask him if we can include this. But Daniel Filan, guest of a previous podcast, happened to be standing right there in the conversation. And so I turned the question to him and I said, Daniel, what do you think? Imagining, of course, that he'd back us up as the chaste podcast that we are. Instead, he said, I was mostly confused the whole time. So probably flirty.
Good.
Good on so many.
I just like to think of each episode as its own kind of self-contained polycule. It's like just for a moment.
Me joke to make. I feel like I'm rubbing off on you. I feel like you wouldn't have said that 2 months ago.
It's like just for 1 hour on Sundays, we all step out of our other commitments and virtually.
That's right. We commit to each other. We don't take other calls. It's polyfidelitous.
Totally. Anyway, I predict that my therapist is going to tell me that does this joke work? You were too receptive to the up-to-date thing, I think. But yeah,
I think you're funnier than you predict I will be. Always.
I'm more.
I always like your jokes more than you think I will.
Oh yeah, true. Well, I thought that you would feel compelled to draw some boundaries and be like, Matt, whoa, you're maybe a little too into me or something like that. And I would be like, oh no. You see, it's just a show. It's just a joke.
Price into the story of this podcast. I want to hear the therapist joke.
and it's almost not a joke. It's just like, well, what I really need to do is I need to fully absorb rejection before I'll actually accept it, because I often try to do this avoidant tactic of I will tell you what the answer is. Like, Hannah, I know you're not into me. It's totally fine. This is just a bit, right? But you at some point, maybe not today, you need to lay into me, and then I'll feel it, and then we'll have a maybe healthier relationship from there.
I like that this still makes me the arbiter and the comptroller of the healthiness of our relationship.
Well, I mean, maybe that's another me problem. I am just looking for a woman to take control. And wait, hang on. You said a minute ago that you were helping me find a wife. In what way? In what world are you doing this, Hannah? I guess through doing the show. Maybe a fan.
Yeah.
That's true.
Hi, ladies. Sometimes I mention the concept.
Okay,
my favorite part of the not a joke you just told. There's a whole genre of jokes that I'm such a sucker for. For instance, guy who puts his meditation app on 2x. Like the combination of rationalist culture and emotions. I don't know. predicting what your therapist is going to say. So funny. Market ahead of time on what your therapist will tell you.
It's like, hi, doctor. I pre-registered a few things about our session today.
The people, this is actually a Twitch live streamed. Twitch does therapy. The callers, the chatters will be telling us how to orient. The markets will adjust.
Well, for sure.
What is a futurarchy-based therapy except to only do therapeutic interventions, which the market predicts will improve your mental health?
Precisely. Yes.
The glorious fanciness future awaits.
Alrighty. Well, let us keep our listeners up to date. Chana, in a previous episode, you reflected on your 10-year-old self being very, very compelled by the injustice of the Iraq War.
Yeah.
Well, finally, after 20 years of waiting, you have an Iran war to be upset about, don't you? Are you upset? I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah. It's very stressful.
Is this an insensitive question, by the way? Why are people so touchy about war in particular?
As in modulo the number of deaths, it like isn't the only like other things cause just deaths.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
You know, this is why they hate us, right? This is the punchability of EA in action. I just want you to know. Right.
It's a fair point.
Why are people so concerned? I think I want to take the question seriously, and you, well,
and also even within war, right? Because there are wars that are like very, very serious and huge in scale and like really, really bad. I'll just say the Iraq War was one of those. This thing with Iran currently, people are kind of treating it like that, but it seems like much, much smaller in scope, at least from what little I know.
Yeah.
But it's war. It's crossed this threshold. It's like it counts as a war. Therefore, I need to be really fired up.
There's actually an interesting feature, which is that the New York Times said, U.S. enters war with Iran, which is like sort of grammatically ambiguous in an interesting way. Like, are we at war with Iran, or there is a pre-existing war with Iran that we are entering? Maybe there's no distinction there. But it was interesting to see. I didn't do this research myself, but it was interesting to see that almost like the Guardian, the BBC, CNN, none of them reported it this way. They reported like airstrikes, U.S. bombs Iran. Actually, the choice to call it a war, I actually think maybe isn't so widespread and is like a pretty like ambiguous or subjective editorial choice, for what it's worth. Well, the thing I was going to say, if I was going to take your question really seriously, which I think maybe just doesn't distinguish it, it's like we're so bad. It's so horrifying in ways that I think like those of us who have only lived ever in peaceful countries or countries that are doing war on other fronts elsewhere maybe don't recognize. But I mean, I guess that's also true of like seeing your children die of malaria, right? So,
I mean, that's my intuition, at least. I mean, I think maybe there's something very primal about violence and the kind of like suddenness and extremity of it. I think usually when you're sick, you have at least like days or hours where you can be like, oh, this is getting increasingly serious.
And like I don't know, I'm totally psychoanalyzing from nothing, but like I do think there's something scary about the unpredictability. Like we don't know when it's going to escalate or de-escalate, or like what our leaders will do, and it's like all in the control of other people. We guys often point out like if the news were reflecting on what was really important, they would just report on the number of malaria deaths every day, right? So the number of children under the age of 5 who die. But there is something I think important about like the human reaction to predictability and unpredictability, and how quickly we take into account what we expect. And wars are like new. I mean, I guess that would predict that wars that go on forever, we don't care about so much. I mean, and I think that's like basically true, right? Like ongoing war is totally tension. I don't know.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, we even felt that in the like Iraq period. 2003 was very, very hot, but it went on for like 6 or 7 years, and there were less casualties, but not like wildly disproportionately less. But it just it was like it's no longer surprising. It was just very much baked into our expectations.
Yeah, I think I feel, to give any take at all, which who knows? I do feel sort of infuriated that look, I mean, I'm not a military strategist, but I just think, at least for the world stage, for those in peacetime, like predictability is very important. And I think Trump being as unpredictable as he is, and like, oh, I'll wait 2 weeks. Oh, like here, it's just happening. Jettisoning, like, very unclear what like future deals with Iran could or would look like. I think the unpredictability feels upsetting. Whether it's the right call in the end, I really don't know. I'm not excited about a nuclear Iran, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, a lot of people are saying it's like the end of Pax Americana, right? We're just like, because of the unpredictability, people are taking their chances. And I mean, that's what people always say about conflicts. It's like, if it's very predictable how things will go and who will enter and what will happen, people will often, the costs will be much realer. You don't think you can get away with much, in some sense. And now you feel like maybe you can. And now the U.S. is kind of backtracking on that. But again, it feels so unpredictable that people probably still really aren't shaken out of this mindset.
And I think this is a really important counterpoint to Trump's like pseudo-intellectual, but like not impossible viewpoint that he exhibited in the first administration, or that people said about him, which is that there's something valuable about the like rational madman, right? That to like sort of take the wheel off, to take the steering wheel off of the game of chicken, you actually could get advantages on the world stage. But this is a way in which unpredictability absolutely loses you the predictability. If people know that you will like fight when you'll fight, when you won't fight, they won't take as many chances.
Yeah, in some ways, the rational madman theory was just like, it was premised on the idea that everyone else has been behaving rationally this whole time. Yeah. But when in fact, it was almost the inverse. There was like, there were very few actors who were rational and predictable. and they were providing net stability to the other more irrational actors. But now that we're all irrational, it's like this compounded on itself in some way.
Yeah, maybe what I want to say about the Iran war or the Iran airstrikes is like, maybe what scares me most is the plausibility that this is all happening because like Israel looked successful and he wanted to be part of it, or he like got bullied into it by Bibi, or was scared of looking weak. Like that's a terrifying possibility to me. Those things are just not tracking, you know, what's most important. A really interesting feature of this is how much it's splitting the MAGA coalition.
Yeah, no, that's kind of where my question was coming
from. Crazy thing after crazy thing, and MAGA has gone with him anywhere. Growth, winning, great. Degrowth, you know, tariffs, great. Like they're just all in on everything. But war is the real thing. It turns out that like they sort of really have actual beliefs about that like maintain after Trump changes his mind. That's wild.
Yeah, I'm super surprised by it, but I mean, it reflects that maybe we have bad models of other people, and I think maybe there's some dynamic where economic things, which can have much greater humanitarian consequences than wars over the long term, are just like less legible.
And this is the point about war being so much more visceral for people, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just, I mean, I think this does bespeak bad models of me. I think on some level, I sort of don't understand isolationism. Like, I understand dominance. I understand the desire to destroy and crush, or understand it. I feel like I have some picture of it. And MAGA feels redolent with this desire to dominate and be better than people and be cruel to people. That in conjunction with like, let's not beat the other guys, or let's only beat them on these like bizarre tariff decisions, is so alien to me. Like, have you seen Dr. Strangelove?
I really should.
Wow, you really should. A fun fact about Chana is that for a long time when I had seen neither movie, I didn't know that Mrs. Doubtfire and Dr. Strangelove were different movies, because, well, you can see by the titles that they both have the same kind of construction.
I makes no sense, but I'm actually kind of with you.
So I started Mrs. Doubtfire, and I was like, cool, this is like a Robin Williams comedy, and also at some point about the Cold War. I'm excited to get to the Cold War parts. The Cold War parts did not arise. Anyway,
you're
amazing. An important feature of the film, which you can now take into account as you watch it, is its so sexual.
Hmm.
Well, phallic or something.
I mean, Cowboy on the Bomb is the famous scene, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And just like there's this like very long, spaciously filmed, luxuriously filmed initial shot with some shots at the end. So this I understand. Big dick energy leads to bombing people. Big dick energy means war is bad. I'm still working on. Like I get it, America.
Okay.
But anyway.
So Hannah, I think the best person to expand on this conversation would be someone who's like went to Harvard, right? might be at that screening, and then also kind of artsy, and an anti-war resist lib.
I have a guess.
Who better than? Do it. I'll count it if you need to.
Is it Trevor Levin?
Wow! Ace!
Nailed it!
Trevor, you just missed Hannah correctly predicting who the guest would be based on. I don't know how generous those hints were, but
they were. He described you as artsy. How do you feel about that?
Great. Yeah, I appreciate that a lot.
Can I?
I mean, look at him with his hair and his glasses.
Can I hype you up a little bit?
Please.
Trevor has a resounding reputation around the musical people of the Bay for knowing every song. Apparently,
I won't dispute that. There are certainly more technically talented musicians. Oh my God, there's a fire alarm going off.
Take us with you.
Let's see. Okay. I might, lose Wi-Fi at any point.
That's so weird.
I guess
this is good.
All right. Yeah. So also it's a Sunday, so I assume this is an actual fire.
Sorry, I believe very strongly in taking fire alarms seriously.
Oh, of course you would. This is good. I believe very strongly in not taking fire alarms seriously.
Surprise guest.
This is the best episode.
Yeah.
So the office?
At any point, this will cut out, I suppose. How are you guys doing?
I assume they are. I mean, obviously, it looks like a big building. We had a listener write in, by which I mean text me, who wants to know if you were raised as an Orthodox Jew, and I assume not, but I haven't answered the question.
You want to give a probability?
What? Like 15.
I think everyone who writes in to ask questions about my life has to first give probabilities on the different answers. I think that's required for future.
Okay.
No, not even a little bit. Reform.
Not even a little bit.
Well,
yeah, I'm just your parents are professors. Come on,
that does not. There's plenty of modern Orthodox professors. You might not know about this concept of a modern Orthodox Jew. You're probably thinking of Hasids or something. There's a whole spectrum. Well, okay. Here's the features that maybe matter. I was raised Reform, in the sense, which means that we were not, we did not keep a kosher household. We did not observe Shavuot. We did not abstain from electronics on the Sabbath. We followed just in some ways, very few of the rules. But I do think it's notable, and I feel extremely grateful to my parents for this, that we did have a somewhat religious household. We took Judaism seriously, and we approached it with sort of love and care and devotion. So we lit candles every Friday night, sometimes before we went out to the movies. And my father sang me the Shema, the credo of faith, every night, which you're supposed to say every morning and every night. And we celebrated big holidays. And we talked about them a lot, and we took the joyful holiday seriously, but we took Yom Kippur seriously with atonement and sin, which, as you know, I'm so into. So I think I had just a better experience of Reform Judaism. It wasn't merely Judaism light. It was an actually rich and loving and imbued with social justice, and you shall not oppress the stranger, for you are a stranger in the land of Egypt, and you are not required to finish the job, but neither are you free to desist from it. That I had like a Judaism that like felt rich and whole and made sense. And so this has given me like a totally different attitude towards Judaism than a religion than most atheists have. It was good shit. And then I fell in with an Orthodox crew in college because they were just like so fun and smart and interesting, and I'm still very good friends with them. And then I was like, I learned a lot of Orthodoxy, which is how I know the stuff I know, and also sometimes I experimented with it. Like I tried to go to 6 a.m. morning services every week. I think I really completely failed at that. But yeah, arguing about Jewish law for 3 years will really give you an ability to pass, at least for 30 seconds at a time.
Nice. Well, hey, look who's back in a new outdoor environment. It's Trevor Levin.
Yeah, hey guys.
Wait, so now I want to talk about fire alarms. I want to talk about whether people should obey them.
So, I mean, as we were exiting, we saw the security guards sort of like fiddling with the fire like toll thing with a sort of confused look on her face, and we were like, was there an actual fire? And she was like, I don't think so. That being said, the payoffs here are sort of asymmetrical, so I think I endorse heeding the fire alarm. Also, like, staying in a building with like a fire alarm going off is not like a very like it's not conducive to like working or appearing on podcasts.
Yeah.
So I think heed our fire alarms is my recommendation.
So here's my take. I'm just like, God, we have so few things in the society that just mean one thing. They don't mean about it. They don't mean ponder about what you want to do and do your second value. They mean get the fuck out of the building. And I think this is so deeply worth preserving. It drives me goddamn nuts that people. I was in an airport once. The airport, like airports don't have fire alarms. Like, okay, one of the problems about buildings in the U.S. and like the fire code is a mess is that they have these test drills. Like schools have tests every week in the UK where they like run the alarm. It's really annoying. So you actually don't have to leave the building, but you do have to hear the alarm. And then they have and then schools in the US have fire drills where everybody has to get out of the building some proportion of the time. Also extremely annoying. I could totally believe that that's overkill. But in an airport, no one moved because we have completely destroyed the ability for this to mean something. And I feel very upset about that.
Yeah, I feel like this is a case of like elites have overplayed their hand and asks the masses to do this kind of thing too many times, and eventually they lose their credibility, and everyone's like, yeah, another fire drill.
I like
totally
this a lot because it really does switch my emotional valence. Like my valence was like, I alone understand the importance of game theory, and all of these people are and you're like, Chana, you're one of the bad elites. You fucked this up. Yeah, I think that's right. I think it's a good take.
Well, I will say that, Chana, the argument that you made was like almost perfectly designed to get me to buy into the fire drill, right? Yeah. It's like conformity, just like let's all have some shared
fire alarms are a bulwark.
Yeah.
But it's true.
Yeah,
we have an obligation.
Yeah, no, and so it's very compelling, and I'm kind of now ashamed to say that I do a different kind of EV thing, but I mean maybe it's exactly what you meant, which is I basically just think about the building that I'm in, and it's like if I'm in a big enough building that like it's possible that there's some fire going on that would cut off my route to escape, I should probably just like leave as soon as I can, just in case that might manifest. If I'm in a building that I know is relatively small and like there's multiple exits and I would like notice the smoke if any of my exits were cut off, then I'd just be like, no, this is like mostly a false alarm and I want to get on with my life.
So I got some flack on Twitter when I last expressed the opinion I'm about to say, so you guys can maybe tell me whether you think I'm right or not. When I was a teacher, I had to run many fire drills, or like be an unwilling participant in many fire drills. It's actually a pretty awkward position for me because I have to do all the things where I'm like, yeah, this is probably fake, but like, it's very hard to convey the thing of like, but society depends on us taking fire alarms seriously. But I also agree this is a bad use of your time and I wish we had fewer fire drills. And certainly it's very hard to convey that while the fire alarm is going on. So instead I'm like, get your shit and get out the door and also stay quiet. Oh, the kids hated the stay quiet rule. They're like, is the fire gonna be like burn hotter if I talk? I think they kind of had, I mean, obviously it's to like listen to instructions, but like, again, very hard to make. Anyway, it used to drive me kind of nuts that they would take time to grab their stuff. So I was like, emergency means emergency. But I feel like I feel like I maybe don't have a leg to stand on. I'm literally don't grab your phone, which is right there. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, I mean, I considered, taking additional steps to try to stay online for the podcast. Like, I was like, should I be like switching to my hotspot, and I very much like carried my laptop across the street. So I don't think I'm practicing like, I mean, I don't know, it was pretty reasonable, I think. But if I really had to like hustle, I think taking the laptop was probably not the right call.
I told you to take the laptop. I'm such a hypocrite. I know that's a funny thing to say, but that's actually just not in accordance with my views on fire alarms at all.
I mean, it would have been such great content if I had been able to stay online and there was an actual fire.
Just like in the background of your shot.
Yeah. There's like flames visible, and I'm like, the music scene in the bay,
We have like a new "This is fine, dog" meme.
Nice. Well, what did we want to talk about? Right, Trevor. I introduced you as our like resident resist lib. I think you're like fairly public about that. On the list of things you're furious about, where does our 24-hour-old conflict with Iran go?
So of the things that I try to make my frustration roughly proportional to like how much I understand about a situation, and I've been trying to do the reading. I got the Matt Iglesias quick reactions email last night at like 11 p.m. and was like furiously reading, but yeah, I can't say that this is an area where I'm like he totally misunderstood the trade-offs here. Like, I don't have a particularly strong view on like what the correct, Iran policy is. I will say, he's burned some trust with me, over the years. But, I don't have like, strong inside view on this particular, issue, which is a boring answer for a podcast, but yeah.
We love it. I will say, I feel like weirdly well-equipped relative to perhaps other conflicts, merely by reading Peter Wildeford's first analysis of Iran like a week ago. Like, I had never heard of Fordo Mountain because, I don't know how many people would have. Maybe I'm out of the loop. But it just meant that every time I read something else, I was like, well, but, what about Fordo? Like, I don't know, that's the, can't be attacked with weapons that Israel has. And I was just like, I don't know if this is like a complete fantasy that I'm more well-equipped in understanding things better, but I do feel like I've gone into this with at least like marginally more context.
It was funny, like in the speech that the president gave after like announcing the attacks yesterday.
Can I say how
he
at one point said, that you say the president? I feel like I never would have in a million years said the president. This is very I serve at the pleasure even of the man I hate kind of energy. I think I'm here for it.
I could have said POTUS.
I respect the option.
That would have been
wow.
If I were really West Wing maxing.
I feel like West Wing, right? Great. Sorry, continue.
Yeah. He gave a speech where there was one line where he says, Fordo, Esfahan, the third site. These are names we've heard for years. And I was like, am I just that unplugged from, the political discourse? Seems unlikely.
When do we think Trump learned those names? Sorry, POTUS.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that it's probably been more on his radar than mine.
But
including back in the first term.
Briefings. He shows up to way fewer briefings than like Biden did.
Interesting. I guess depends on what you mean by show up. In the I'm an equal opportunity, wisecracker. Yeah.
Trevor, I want to know about the no take here. Aiming for good calibration. This is not a thing that I want to express high confidence in. Is your take on Iran? What's the history of you becoming kind of rationalism pilled? I'm wondering like whether I like witnessed this in 2021, because you seem to be like encountering all these people at the same time I was and being like, wow, damn, why didn't I like think of problems that way, or like learn to download the $10 app to like make me more productive, or like do all these things? And it seemed like it was new to you, but maybe not.
Yeah. So, I mean, I had come across both, I came across 80,000 Hours, a
Good
place
job.
near and dear to you both, um, in like 2015, when I believe Rob came to Harvard, or some 80K person gave a
Did you go
talk.
to Harvard?
Um, believe it or not, just had to slide that one in there. And I was like, it was like my like fourth week of college, and I was like, wow, these are like all of the exact questions and like the exact sort of overarching framework that I like hoped somebody was looking into, or that I wanted to start developing answers to. And I was like, nodding along vigorously, and then sort of the end of the presentation, it was like, so how can you help? First of all, you might get a job in management consulting. Secondly, consider quant trading to earn to give. And third, ML PhD. And I was like, oh man, well, I don't want to do any of those things. So I guess like they're in some sense the objectively correct thing to do. So I will like keep an eye on those options, but like, yeah. And like, I'll keep consuming the content here, but, I didn't like immediately, drop everything and become, Ben Todd's strongest soldier. So over the course of college, I like, read a bunch of 80K content, and I actually in my senior fall, I wrote a column for the newspaper that was like, among other topics, like had a couple sort of like EA or rationalist ideas. So one of them actually like linked to CFAR material. I of course had no idea the sort of like, history or sort of positionality of that institution, but I saw stuff about the Hamming questions, and I was like, yeah, this stuff is awesome. But I definitely like didn't have this sort of like, oh yeah, like everyone around me is like, figuring out how to make like time money trade-offs a little bit better or something, until I went to like a CEA workshop or retreat or something in 2021, where I met Matt, and also was sort of like deeply baptized into these practices, or this sort of way of thinking.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's like a distinction here between, I think, having like a substantively like pragmatic view of the world and politics and how you make decisions, and like trying to think through contingencies and whatnot, and then there's this like personal life, like high agency, just like you can be and do anything if you just like figure out all the steps you need to take and hack it persistently enough, or something like that, which I frankly just I saw you biting on it in 2021, and I've never bitten on it. I've just always just been like, oh, these ideas are neat, I'll just see how far I can get by just riffing on them, and so far so okay.
This is only marginally related, but it's a story that just came to mind, and I want to tell it about Trevor. We're doing more hype. One thing, Trevor, do you remember a conversation that we had at the Summit for Existential Security in 2022?
I want to say 2023. Yeah. I remember right. The setting and fact of this conversation, but not much about the content.
Well, it sort of like was an interesting rationality EA, maybe slightly intention moment. We were arguing with some folks about the relationship between AI safety and EA, and in particular, I think at Harvard, what the relationship between AI safety and EA was. And this was like, this is like, in a long line of debates about like long-termism and how upfront the CEA handbook is being about the priorities of the CEA staff and like whose priorities are we reflecting and this, that, and the other. And this goes to Matt's, blog post from a few weeks ago about all the EA people jumping ship to AI safety. Anyway, there's a strategic question and a moral question that comes up a lot with AI safety folks, which is like, how EA do we want people to be? Like, how much does it matter that they buy everything else? It's a strategic question because maybe it will really matter if people buy into the digital mind stuff. Like, we don't just get to like do ML work, but maybe it doesn't matter at all, and we like need to have a broad tent. There's also this kind of ethical question of like, how much of a bait and switch are we comfortable doing accidentally or not accidentally? And I remember it being I was taking a somewhat hardline anti-bait and switch position, at least in the moment. And I just remember being very impressed by Trevor, like calling out some of his own folks in his milieu. We won't say anyone, being like, yeah, no, I think we just like absolutely wish these people would become more EA, and the incentives are obviously in that direction.
Yeah, I feel maybe more conflicted now.
Yeah, I wonder how your views have changed.
Well, I think now that we've sort of seen the, like, what does AI safety without EA look like?
Yeah.
And I feel a little bit more like, to me, it's sort of like, yeah, obviously you should have like some amount of like outreach to people who want to like make AI systems robust and secure and blah, 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 without having like particular interests in philosophy or ethics or, the like other aspects of the like, making the world a better place stuff. Like, it just feels like we need the tent to be broader in that dimension. And there's a separate question of like, were the exact practices of like Harvard EA and the Harvard AI safety team like reflective of that approach versus being more like feeling like we were trying to do some EA thing but not call it EA or something. And I also don't know how to feel about that, because if you're motivated by EA stuff and then you do anything, like, do you need to like report that on like the organization's website, or like, is it just like everyone has their motivations and it's fine?
Yeah, absolutely classic. I guess I don't know that we actually disagree, but the way that you presented the argument of like the big tent, I think makes it sound kind of unimpeachable, and I sort of want to like make it sound a little bit more of like a controversial claim. Like, the absolute right is right, but is actually like making a substantive a point, which is like, it's not like, of course there are people who want to like work on the robustness of AI, but like maybe we just have to like bite a kind of like obnoxious elitist bullet that says like, if you are not motivated by what the most important problems are, you will not work on the most important problems, even within the arena of like AI safety and robustness, because you're just like intellectually interested in part of it and not others, which is totally fine in a world where we're not under existential threat, and less fine in a world where we are. Or, you take a better approach and like maybe basic research is still important even in those worlds, and you want to follow your research taste, blah, 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 blah. And also, if you have people who are like gaining political power by being the kind of like intellectual war horses that any given administration will depend on, maybe it really matters what your views are on the far future or digital minds or things like that, because you could like do unspeakable harm if you get it wrong.
Yeah, I think there is both a question of like, what is like the relative value of like people who have like specific expertise and people who are like sufficiently motivated by like, how do you do the most good, that they will like radically pivot their research direction. And I think like that thing, like, I think we've seen a few cases where like that like willingness to like throw out like ego and track record and just be like, well, our approach to mech and turf didn't work, we're going to do AI control instead. I think that has paid like huge dividends. And then, yeah, there's a question of like, to what extent should we be, I don't know, like forming alliances with, that's like one maybe more charitable way of putting it, is like forming alliances with people who like share some of our interests and not like all of our philosophy or something. And I guess there's an argument of like, if you're just explicitly forming alliances, like that's like totally fine. And if you're doing some weirder, like kind of in the tent, kind of not in the tent, like pretending someone's in the tent, but they're not, I don't know if we're really doing that, but like that definitely feels more like fraught, basically. I guess I'm not really saying anything here. I'm just like, yeah, tricky landscape.
That's all good. One thing that I've noticed myself becoming more interested in, actually, as I like launch this 80K video program, is like a pretty broad base of like, I just do want to talk to everyone. I just think I can make the case. Like this case just is totally reasonable. These AI systems are black boxes that we don't understand, with increasing capabilities and increasing autonomy and increasing time horizons, and that's scary. And like, you know, my sister told me when I last saw her, you know, she's my sister. Obviously, she's going to give me a lot of like maybe more intellectual credit than the random other people on TikTok. But she was like, "You're scaring me," and I'm like, "Unfortunately, good. That's the goal." And my sister's a very like smart, thoughtful person, but like I think probably wasn't steeped in AI discourse before. And I'm just like, "Yeah, get me anybody. I will convince them. Let's do it."
So Chana, I did tell Trevor that we wouldn't talk shop.
Sorry, this is the most substantive podcast episode we've had. This is like wild.
Was one of the pitfalls of having a surprise guest is not both hosts know.
No idea.
But we yeah, I mean we'll see how Trevor feels about it later. We can cut this is our favorite thing to say.
Love it. Oh,
and then
have we talked about that being a name for the podcast?
Oh, we can cut this. Oh. It's like, in fact, you listener, you can just cut this from your whole day. Just don't even bother.
You play something at like a high enough speed, it's basically like not listening to it.
I do just want to echo basically what you said. I think between the like building alliance things and making investments things, I do think that just being explicit about the like specific thing that you care about throughout is critical to like not doing this like fraught thing that can be bad on its own terms or bad on other people's terms. And that's my main worry. It's like, I don't care if you're EA or it's long-termism or philosophy or whatever. It's just like, you have a specific problem that you're working on and that you care about. You should like let everyone who you're working with and cooperating with know, like, this is what I'm worried about. This is why. As you say, Chana, I think, you know, your TikToks are compelling enough, but they are saying the thing that we care about. So well done.
This somehow reminds me, I'm watching Into the Abyss by Werner Herzog. I'm so Herzog pilled, guys. It's all Joe Carl Smith's fault. Have you guys seen Grizzly Man?
I have not. I really intend to. I've seen a lot of Herzog on Twitter talking about Fitzcarraldo, which that has produced a lot of good clips.
People love Fitzcarraldo. You must read Joe Carl Smith's piece about gentleness and the other, and then you must watch Grizzly Man. Anyway, one striking thing about Werner Herzog is that he is just the most opinionated documentarian, and he just says all of his opinions about the subject matter on screen, which is a wild thing for a documentarian to do. And so this one is about capital punishment, and so he's interviewing a man, you know, classic behind the screen through the phone. He was on death row, and he says to this guy, you know, I think you have been dealt a very bad hand, and I respect you as a human being, and that doesn't mean I have to like you. And I'm like, this guy's on death row. I don't know if he needs to be reminded that people don't like him. But Werner Herzog is explicit about his views and where he's.
Yeah, I mean, worth noting perhaps that, you know, Herzog is, you know, some combination of optimizing for and selected for, you know, creating entertaining documentary content.
Yeah.
Versus like being a successful builder of bridges.
You know.
Well, hang on.
Good point.
The president is essentially a reality TV star, right? He is just flying his freak flag, saying what he thinks, saying what he feels, and that doesn't seem to inhibit him from making big coalitions. In fact, it maybe helps.
Perhaps. I think.
Well, look. I think that people are very sensitive to the idea that they are being manipulated, to the extent that if you're authentic, even if you're an authentic liar and manipulator, right? This is like what Dave Chappelle said about Trump. He's like he's an honest liar, and people see the honesty and they know he's a liar. It's like, it's fine. We're all kind of shitty in various ways. At least he's like letting his shittiness air in front of us, and we know what we're getting. And maybe that's why Iran is upsetting, because some of the shit what he aired before was that I'm no wars, never wars. I hate all these war people. But like this authenticity, this just like wearing your heart on your sleeve, like I think we're living in a cultural age where people just appreciate that much more than they did in West Wing times.
Sorry, I think this is a bad take. He got the coalition that elected him. He has not acquired any more. Alliances are precisely, if the people agreed with you, they wouldn't be alliances, they would be a coalition. Alliances are like working with people who don't agree with you. He has not acquired any new supporters or like new allyships. Sorry, Trevor.
Oh yeah. The practice has gone terribly. I agree, but I'm just saying the communication went well.
Well, I mean, I think I guess my take is the reason that this is a bad take is that he's a much more like conventional politician in this regard than people give him credit for. Like, I think like he did expand his coalition in 2024 relative to either of his previous elections, and in part this is because he like made a bunch of policy concessions on like economic, like he was like, we're gonna do like no taxes on tips and no taxes on Social Security. Versus while interestingly explicitly campaigning on mass deportations of everyone here illegally, and then like in so many New York Times interviews where they talk to the like undecided voters, they'll say like, oh yeah, I mean like not everyone here illegally, but like just the criminals, and then like, you know, surprise Pikachu when he like does the thing that he said a million times. It was like the number one thing that he said over and over and over for 8 years, but especially in the 2024 campaign that he was going to do. But like, so I think there is some degree of like policy olive branching, and like very studiously threading this line on, for example, how hawkish to be with Iran, where he like kept just enough of the traditional conservatives in the coalition while also like reassuring sort of, you know, anti-establishment, like skeptic type voters, like, no, like, you know, I'm not a war guy, you know, blah, blah, blah. I think the interesting, like maybe unique to Trump thing is like, or like unique to great politicians, and Trump is one example of in this regard, like people interpret him so charitably with respect to their own views, where like they hear him say a sort of like designed to be vacuous thing, or even a not that ambiguous thing, like we're going to deport everybody here, all 11 million people here, or whatever it is, without papers, and then and they hear we're going to deport everyone who is like convicted of a violent crime, and like refuse to believe you if you say no, he said he would do everybody. They're just like, yeah, I don't think that doesn't sound like him. So I think it is impressive. Like he both has cultivated this like perception of like authenticity and like much more sort of like similarity to like the generic you than most politicians are able to do.
It almost feels like he's very good at like weak manning, or like it almost feels like reverse dog whistling, right? Like he only talks about criminals. He may say, I want to deport everyone, but then whenever he uses examples, right, of like why this is a good idea, he only talks about criminals. And I think that does convey something about where his focus is. So I think the people who are predicting his policy positions are not actually having a crazy view at all. I don't think they're stupid. Like he reneges on promises all the time, and like where his actual focus and intensity is probably is a decent predictor of where he'll mostly put the focus. And he has been kind of like all over the place on like exactly how many people he wants to deport. Like, oh, all the restaurant workers. Wait, just kidding. And like, I don't know. He's like a total mess about it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think a big part of this is the breadth of the coalition, where like there are these like intra-party disputes where like some people in the White House really want to go after everybody, and then like the Chamber of Commerce is like, this is so much of our workforce, like you know, or like, you know, lobbies of particular industries are like, we are like not going to be able to harvest all of the strawberries, like this is a huge problem for us.
And it's interesting,
and stuff like
so
that.
willing to say with the tariffs, maybe you just shouldn't have fucking strawberries in December.
Yeah, which is a fascinating like quasi Maoist or leftist position for the that part of the party to adopt.
So we were talking about this earlier when you were off, you know, escaping from fire. Why is the MAGA coalition so split on war? Like, why aren't they don't interpret him charitably here. They don't just follow him here.
Yeah, I mean, my take would be the overall default is like conservatives vote for Republicans and Trump adopts a lot of the conservative positions and aligns with the Republican Party. So therefore, there's a lot of like traditional conservatives in the coalition.
No, but I think
And then
MAGA
also,
themselves is split on this. This is not just
yeah, yeah,
MAGA.
yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of conservatives have become MAGA. Like a lot of conservatives were anti-MAGA. For example, J.D. Vance, before before it became clear that this guy was like sticking around, and if you like wanted to be in the middle of things, you had to get more MAGA. Yeah, so why the MAGA part of the coalition is split? I mean, I think there's also like some people are maybe drawn to like enough of this like, you know, bureaucratic like waffling nonsense. Like MAGA is about like decisive action and like you know, there's perhaps a gender reading of this particular dynamic. Like we've gotten too soft and woke and feminine, and we need to like, you know, punch our enemies in the face. And then there's the like MAGA is about how like the elites have, you know, taken over, and like we need to like get the sort of like representative of the people in charge, which is like the sort of like more conspiracy theory-ish, like more like maybe voted for Obama once or twice and then like switched to Trump, or was like, you know, anti-Iraq, anti-vax. Like the like Viking guy in the Jan 6 riot, yeah, was like maybe a Green Party member or like a Bernie supporter or something. Like there was some like major sort of like, this is the sort of anti-establishment, like you're more anti-establishment than you are left part of the anti-establishment left. And then those people like significantly swung.
Is
yeah, so
the term for this.
Yeah, like the Maha crowd, like this is how RFK Jr. winds up in a Republican administration. Yeah.
This is the second time in this conversation that you have sort of brought in like elitism as like an important frame, and I think I'm just realizing this is exactly what I'm like missing by default. I was telling Matt earlier that I feel like I understand politics of like dominance and like the gender analysis you were giving, and I think I just like deeply on some visceral level, maybe as in, you know, a soft, effete coastal elite, like kind of like viscerally don't get. Right. If you think that like all of these foreign wars are just like elites fucking around and like not giving a shit about like whether you have cheap, like sufficiently cheap food on your table and job, then you're just like, what is going on here? Yeah. Okay. Wait. This is all the information. I had all the information for this, but this is helping it snap into place in a way that I think this is very good.
I was going to say, it doesn't seem like an under-discussed point.
I know. I think about elitism a lot, but somehow it doesn't come to mind for perhaps the obvious reason. Yeah, well,
you know, here in DC, we seek to bring the West Coast our sophisticated political analysis. Like anti-elitism is a major strain in American politics.
Clear with the audience. I understand that elitism and anti-elitism and conspiratorial thinking are important features in American politics. But you can hear earlier in the conversation that it didn't immediately stem to mind when I was giving my analysis. I think it's obviously like it takes one step too many for me to ponder.
Okay, Trevor. Our listeners all need to know before you go, where should they go and what should they do in the great state of Ohio?
In the great state of Ohio, I can mostly speak to the Cleveland area as a native Clevelander. My number one recommendation is the Cleveland Museum of Art. It is like really an exceptional art museum. It is, I think, maybe like the world's best free art museum. It has, you know, your Picassos and your Monets and your big suits of medieval armor.
And this is going up against like almost every London museum, right? Almost all of which are free.
That's interesting. I'll say America's one of America's greatest free art museums. There's also the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and Museum, Cleveland being the birthplace of the term rock and roll.
Is it true that rock and roll refers to like sex moves?
I think it is there's some deliberate ambiguity of like sex moves versus like dance moves, as is often the case in 50s and 60s musical culture.
At least warned us.
Like I think it comes from DJ Alan Freed, Clevelander, saying, tonight we're going to do some rockin' and some rollin'.
So good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. So that's another Cleveland staple. I'm from Ohio City, which is a Cleveland neighborhood that I would also recommend as a visitor's spot. A very hip and sometimes quaint locale. And then if you want Columbus or Cincinnati, you're gonna have to ask somebody else. Ask Peter Wildeford about Cincinnati.
Good call. Peter Wildeford, prominent white man. Good. We can have him on. That's one of our bits here, Trevor. Anyway, it's been a joy to talk to you through your fire emergency and all else. Thanks so much for coming on, Trevor.
Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, I'll go back and see whether I still have an office building.
Yeah, I wanted to ask him whether he still identifies as a resist lib.
Oh, I mean, that kind of goes without saying.
Really?
Oh, just like the title or the name?
Yeah.
Like I scrolled through his Twitter to prepare for this important interview, and he's a resist lib. The question is, does he call himself one?
No, I guess that's not so interesting.
But I don't know. There's some kind of question in here about like, I see us, and I don't know if I'm just roping you into my crowd here.
Yeah, we'll see.
The like politically engaged, highly pragmatic anti-Trump coalition as like trying to find ways to better relate to people to our right in a more forthright way than we have in the past. And maybe dropping this whole like resistance empire thing is like one way to do that. And I could see Trevor going for that.
That's interesting. Yeah, maybe there's been like sort of an implicit hope that one thing that like all Americans can agree on is the importance of democracy and the rule of law. But in fact, in polling, this is just not a winning idea. It's just like doesn't have the salience or the importance of prices, of inflation, of things like that. And so there is kind of like I think like an attempt to sort of be non-elitist, but in a way that elites find compelling and non-elites don't, about the democracy and no king stuff. Which is really an ongoing failing, perhaps, of the highly politically engaged, overeducated sort.
Yeah, and it's funny that like, it's a good flag on the no kings thing. I think a lot of especially
I loved being there, and like I loved seeing how America it was, but which I think is a huge improvement, to be clear.
Yeah, American step in the right direction. American flags instead of pink hats and Mexican flags. Yeah, good.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Step in the right, but still the no kings framing, and I do think that like, yeah, maybe that's some way in which we haven't fully grokked like who we need to engage and who we need to speak to.
Well, I think it's a question of like, I mean, I think it's obvious that there are like a number of pragmatic, thoughtful, center-right folks who are like at the moment kind of politically homeless, right? And they certainly feel that way, right? Yep. Like the Never Trumpers, all these folks. And I think no kings appeals to them, I assume. I guess I'd have to ask them. But like certainly the underlying notion of like due process and rule of law being important. But I guess it hasn't really succeeded in getting a winning coalition. So I think there's two questions, which is like, are we like successfully allying with those folks? And then is that even the right call relative to like the broader crowd, including like the diehard MAGAs and Mahas, but like the broader crowd is not all diehard ideologues, they're just people.
Right. And I think, it's super tempting to just view things as a smooth right-left continuum. And then it's funny that people do like, there is this disagreement within the anti-Trump coalition, if you want to call it a coalition, about whether we should be more like Bernie or more like these like center-right people.
Or more abundance.
Yeah, my intuition is more what?
More abundance pilled, right? That's the other.
Oh yeah.
Right, the like YIMBY neolib.
Yeah, I do feel like that is more the center-right thing.
The Republicans definitely have found, I think, Ezra Klein and Derek Thompson and Kelsey Piper, they're like, aren't you guys just Republicans? You're like anti-regulation, you're like pro-growth. And they're like, first off, I think actually just no, like we just like are much more progressive on a variety of like social issues and redistribution, but also we're certainly not today's Republicans.
Yeah, no, that's totally right. And it's just funny, like this anti-elite thing. It's really hard to actually figure out. Like, I'm super tempted by like the abundance thing, but because that is appealing to like my inner David Brooks and Ross Douthat and all that. But that just feels like honestly such a tiny little island of people that I live on. It's like, wait, what are we doing here?
But that's crazy. Growth and
no.
But hold on, what? This is the same as winning. Sorry, everyone forever has wanted more money.
People deep in their bones do not grok that growth is a thing. They think that when they get more money, someone else is getting less. And so it's very, very hard to sell them on abundance type things. It's across the political spectrum. And this is kind of what I'm like, I don't know, from my priestly perspective or whatever. This is what I want to preach about.
It's too positive.
I want people to feel the light of growth and positive sum trades and things like that, because they really don't in a very basic and fundamental way.
Interesting. I think a really interesting question will be, and has been asked and has been discussed for years, but will really become a sticking point, is what are the AI coalitions going to be? Sorry, I think it matters. Wait.
Well, currently they're the eye rollers and the non-eye rollers.
Sure, but I think there's so many more axes than that. I think I think people are thinking about job loss, and I think people are thinking about the future, and I think like being able to speak to that compellingly is crucial. While also being honest about the existential risks. And as we know, at least in surveys, lots of people will say, "Wow, this AI stuff seems really dangerous." Like huge proportion of people.
Yeah, I think you appreciate that it's all extremely far mode, though, and I think the thing that people would be kind of put off by is kind of
become a sticking point. Like at some point it will become real, and then we'll see how things hash out. And I think one can get themselves better for this.
And I'm obviously very living in the present, where it's just like people are going to see Chana and be like, "Oh, you think everything's going to be about AI, huh, weirdo? Like, good for you." And I want to feel I like when I look I care about
to
it.
Be the person that people should pick to speak to the masses. I think I'm like deeply. Well, I guess I am claiming that it's a tic-tac situation, but on a political level, there's a difference. I think AI safety influencer could be in my future. I think anti-elite politician equivalent is extremely not.
Yeah, I mean, it seems a little hard to square with your everything's going to be AI. Including and especially politics, probably.
Yeah, everything is going to be AI.
So being an AI safety influencer means that you're going to have to grapple with these things, correct? Like,
yeah, it's just, yeah. I don't even know which point I'm making anymore. But I'm like, I think there's something very powerful about the everything. If it was only the rule of law, if it was only the abstract farm mode things that were going to be AI, that would be a harder case to make to the public. But actually, in point of fact, it will also be about what food is and isn't on your table, and like what happens to the economy and what happens to your job. The fact that it's not just a tech story actually gives room for a much more compelling and broad-based sense of communication. It's not just a tech story. It's also a geopolitics story, but it's not just that. It is like a personal story about what is happening to you.
And so, yeah, I take the point. Like, be ready for when people are going to be receptive to those stories. They're not receptive right now. Yeah, and again, maybe I live too much in the present, but the way that I frame these things is always just like, hey, look, there's like some chance, I have a theory, hear me out. And I feel like your TikToks are much more like...
I think AI job loss is like on people's minds. I think you're missing a moment. I think it's happening.
I think they think it, but they don't feel it.
I guess it's wild how, yeah, one thing that's interesting is the degree to which job loss might first be felt, right, among the computer scientists and the consultants and the other people. That's right, the lawyers. An elite concern, which is sort of inconvenient for this broad-based coalition mindset. Much comes to think about.
You go to the gym, Chana? You are? Nice. Gonna get that deadlift after 205?
Jesus Christ. I might never in my life be able to do what you did with no practice. I think this is like a deep... I think some of the second wave feminists talk about this. I don't know. It's not fair. God God's fucked. It's not fair. I work out more than you.
Wow, you curse God. The thing that you choose to curse God about is your ability to lift.
It's not fair that men are just stronger.
Listeners, the lore behind this is that that Hannah's very proud of her deadlifts. She mentioned this in episode 1, maybe a more recent episode 2. And I just sent her a text the other day saying, I wonder if I watched a YouTube video teaching me how to deadlift, whether I could just do substantially more than you on my very first try. And then I did that, and I sent her the video. It was good times.
Good form. It's not going to hurt his back. It's all very good. I'm very proud of him. But I do remember when I lived in Pittsburgh and I was working out all the time, and my boyfriend at the time was not, and then he installed a pull-up bar, and then he could just do pull-ups. And I cannot just do pull-ups. It's not fair.
You get there.
It's not fair. I am assisted pull-ups. Did you can put negative weight on your pull-ups? The real number line goes in both directions. There's this thing called assisted pull-ups, right? Where you have whatever. There's these machines that sort of give you a boost, or you can use the resistance bands.
So it's just like a jack lift, just like.
Resistance bands for.
Well, Hannah, I wouldn't know because I can do pull-ups.
Can you actually? Wait, when was the last time you did a pull-up?
Oh, I do. Those are part of my regular routine. I can do like 7.
7. Right. All right, film it. Yeah. Film it for the Patreon.
Reminds me we should set up the Patreon. It's also funny you mentioned Pittsburgh. I again, in my grasp for material, I was looking at the Merely Real, being like, all right, what Hana stuff do I have? And your last post, you had like shame, Jewish shame and guilt about Yom Kippur and all that, and then you had like my reflections on Pittsburgh. Were both some of the very recent posts, and they both came up sua sponte. Amazing.
Yeah. Huge fan of Pittsburgh. And as a result of living in Pittsburgh, I have a lot of thoughts about Columbus, but no thoughts about Cleveland. So it's great that Trevor could deliver.
How about it? All right, Hannah, you get those lifts in, and we'll see our beloved listeners next week, or in 2 weeks, I guess is how I release these. But
good to see you.
Bye. Take care.